Come on, make Daddy proud. I don't know what happened.
Oh, you're there.
Oh my God! It worked! It's only been
Nice.
25 minutes!
Joe broke it. I mean,
I broke it. I broke it. I will take that. I broke it. And the unfortunate thing is, I have to start over again. But it's okay. I'll trim time off. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So don't worry about it. We'll go like 10 over, 10 past 6, and we'll call it good. I know everybody's got stuff to do. But
No, I don't.
well, just you said the quiet part out loud, okay? But no, I will go ahead and jump right into it. That way, we're not wasting any time. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Guardians Mental Health Veterans Day Roundtable Talk. Today, we gather to honor and celebrate the brave men and women who have served in our nation's armed forces. Veterans Day is more than a date on the calendar. It's a heartfelt tribute to the courage, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment of our veterans. Veterans Day is a moment to pause and reflect on the freedoms we often take for granted. Freedoms secured by those who have put themselves in harm's way. It's a day to acknowledge the extraordinary sacrifices made by service members and their families, and to express our deepest gratitude for their service. Our veterans have faced unimaginable challenges and have shown resilience, strength, and determination. They have protected our country, our values, and our way of life. Today we honor their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs. As we embark on this roundtable talk, let us remember the importance of mental health support for our veterans. They deserve not only our thanks, but also our understanding and assistance as they navigate life after service. Let's stand together in solidarity. Thank you for joining us today. Let's make this a meaningful and heartfelt discussion that honors our veterans and support for their well-being. If you don't know, we're going to go through and make a brief introduction. My name is Joe. I am the Executive Director of Guardians Mental Health, and I'm accompanied by several amazing guests, team members, and friends. I would like to go around and introduce them now. Blake, would you like to go?
Yeah. Hey everyone, my name is Blake. I'm the Director of Veteran Advocacy for Guardians Mental Health, and I'm also an active duty clinical psychologist.
Thank you. Shafis?
hey guys, I'm Shafis. I'm the manager of the military section. I work with Joe and Blake, and I'm a full-time retired vet streamer.
Thank you. And Direct?
What's going on, guys? Direct threat or Zyler, either way. Prior service, Coasty, 6 years, got out back out in 2019. Now I'm just a normal guy, so
Just an average Joe.
no, average Zyler.
It's a Karen. He's a manager.
I call myself an average Joe all the time, but I can't thank everybody enough for being here. I apologize for the delay. I somehow broke the heck out of Streamlabs, and it was not streaming, and I talked for a solid 4 or 5 minutes, all of us did, before realizing it wasn't live on Twitch. So I apologize for the delay, and thank you very much for sticking with us and joining the conversation with us. So, starting out, one of the hardest things that I see with veterans is coming out and adapting to life after active service. Transitioning to civilian life prompts so many challenges that a lot of our service members are not prepared for. They spend years and years of their lives following orders, being told be here, A, B, and C at these times. When they come out into civilian life, sometimes, not every time, but sometimes they're just, the door's open. Thank you very much for your service. That next step, it's all you. And a lot of people don't know how to adapt back to civilian life because they spent so long in service. Would both Shafis and Direct are both veterans. Did you guys have any struggles when you were transitioning back to civilian life?
Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, so I actually didn't do any of the taps or anything. Like, actually, I learned more about the VA in the 10 minutes before we started going live than I'd learned before I left the military. Um, Still have no idea, like, of any of the real benefits I have from when I left, to be honest. Yeah, and then just talking to people, really. I mean, you can talk a certain way to people in the military, and then you get out and you deal with people, and you can't really speak the same way anymore. No one understands the dark sense of humor that you have.
Mm-hmm.
No one understands the really, really, really bad jokes at times. Um, yeah, so it just took a lot of different friend groups, a lot of different you know ways to find that group of people that I can finally call like friends. So
Yeah, absolutely. You're not wrong, and you were definitely not wrong about the jokes. And even now, Shafis sends me random stuff throughout the week that is military humor, and I'm sure Blake is seeing it now, just fresh, almost on a weekly basis as well. But he's seeing it in real life. He's like, I can't say anymore.
Hmm.
No, but no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, before we started, Direct brought up a point, a struggle that he was going through, and Shafis informed him of some benefits that were available to him and how to go through. So hopefully we can help you get some much needed benefits going and everything. That plus there's a lot of time lapse in between there. So hopefully we can help you out with that, and Shafis hopefully can spearhead, and maybe Blake can help out as well too. Just to fill you in, Blake, real quick, Direct has been out of active service for 6 years, and COVID put a stop to his benefits. He has gone since COVID without benefits, and he works very, very hard to support him and his family and everything, keep a roof over their heads. He doesn't have time to run over to the VA and sit there for hours upon hours upon hours to, get benefits again. So Shafis informed him that it's now done online. So it might actually create a nice pocket of, time where you can sit down at your computer and on your phone, whatever, and fill that information out and start receiving those benefits again. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
do see that quite often with a lot of veterans coming back and not knowing which social group to kind of fit in. And you absolutely nailed it, Direct. That humor, that way of life that you've just accompanied for so many years, it doesn't hit when you get home. So finding community, a supportive community, is much needed, and a lot of veterans I've seen just in the gaming space are very quiet and reserved, and through some of our programs and some of our partnered and peer organizations that are veteran focused have really opened up the doors to finding those supportive communities and socialization for once active, now veteran service members to be with like-minded individuals and find those people and start building friendships and start transitioning. And gaming, I feel, has been a huge benefit to so many, and I always call us the gamers generation, and that's anywheres from the mid 80s all the way up to present day. And it's more so now than it was before, because I mean, I grew up with Atari. Nate's in chat, he remembers beating two rocks together, and that was their gaming. Sorry, Nate, love you, man. But yeah, nowadays people bond while playing games. That's how Guardians Mental Health, formed. We individuals that never met each other a day in their lives bonded over online gaming, and that is something that can be utilized. Especially one of the benefits that Nate's shushing me in the chat. That's one of the things that was a positive that came out of COVID. There was a lot of negative, but one of the positives was it opened up that socialization online where people could socialize and build relationships and de-stress and be heard, and have somebody listen to them, finding communities online. So it was one benefit that really helped a lot of people and continues to. Shafis, when you got out of the Army, did you have any struggles transitioning?
Life sucked. Yeah, I say that, looking back, it was a nightmare. It was really a nightmare. My first year, I found myself in a box of bottles every weekend, and it was basically the separation anxiety is horrible. Like we were just talking about. We talked about it today on stream. I have two lifelong best friends, career long military friends. Same thing. If they ever call, hey, I need you here, my bag's packed on the airplane. And when you come out of the military, there is nothing. There is none of that. And we've always got beaten into, you don't need to open up, you don't need to share. But when you find yourself alone in that foxhole and you're like, who to reach out to, who to talk to, I'm so lost, or like, hey Joe, do you want to help out? And you get the stereotype, oh yeah, we'll do it this weekend. Then you never see that person for 6 months, and it's like, I just want to be a part of something. You miss being a part of something. You miss the team, and I say it all the time. It's one team, one fight. But you leave the military into civilian sector, you got to find that team. It's not established. It's not there, and so that one team, one fight is maybe one team, one fight for you, and for the other 6 people who you think are your friends are really just acquaintances looking for a step up. So for me, the first year was absolutely a nightmare. I hated it. I don't wish any vet to do that, go alone.
Now, I've seen a friend of mine, Nick, he was in the Marine Corps, and he did 3 tours overseas. The first 2, first one that was his deployment. He went overseas. That was it. Same unit, same team, everything. And when it came to re-up, it was essentially almost, the way he described it, it was almost like, you have to do this. We did. You're not going to leave us out there to go alone, are you? And he felt obligated that he had to sign up again and go on another deployment overseas because he didn't want to leave his brothers in arms without him. This is your family on the battle, your battle buddies. So, and he did that 2 more times. And then he finally, it was his time to step out of, active service, and he was still getting it months later, sign back up, come back. And he had a family at that point. He had 2 little girls, and he wanted to spend time. He wanted to watch his girls grow. So it's not being selfless. I mean, you do have to think about your families, your kids and everything, and life after the military, because you want your your kids to know who you were and who you are. So it's very difficult when coming back, just like you were just, sharing. And I know a lot of people were in similar situations, coping with being back in a civilian life. You're living at the bottom of a bottle, that transition is very difficult, and you still have friends that are, serving. So it kind of beats you up on side. You're torn by 2 worlds, and I would imagine Blake could probably, dive into it a little bit more, but I'm sure it's something that is seen even today, with people signing up because they don't want to leave their battle buddies, to go out alone, so they sign up again. It's a difficult thing to deal with, and, having that support network is definitely much needed. One of the things that does make it easier is resources, honestly. Not just mental health resources for veterans, but knowing where to go, where to get. And a lot of people will say the VA can do better. And they definitely can. I mean, I know a lot of friends and family who are veterans, have served, and they absolutely dread going to the VA. It's like pulling teeth, and actually it would be faster to pull teeth. So getting access to resources that'll help you with transitioning. And I know just this past year, Blake shared this, last year when we were working, finishing up the veteran-focused mental health kit in-house, new resources that were coming out for transitioning. And that has, through the kit, has helped a lot of people with their transitions going back to civilian life. And that was something simple as, a website that you can go that has focused resources specifically for that. And it's helped a lot of people. To date, we've supported over 3,700 service members with our mental health kits, our veteran-focused mental health kits. And it goes a long way, having access to those resources. So, Blake, could you maybe talk about a little bit about, kind of resources for veterans and, active service?
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones that I think we touched on last time was In Transition. So it's a program that's actually managed or funded by Congress. And what it does is it helps people that are in the time period where they're transitioning. So with TAPS and something like that, we can get them in touch with like a coach that's in their area to help them with like job applications, getting benefits set up with the VSO through the VA, so your veteran service officer. So that's where they'll take your medical records and help you file claims and everything like that. For those that are like separating in a traditional route. Whereas then there's also options within transition for if someone is going through, and y'all might know this term, like being MEB'd or med boarded. Whether it's a legacy option or it's just a normal process taking a while. The options differ a little bit there, but I take that part of my job personally very seriously with helping and making sure that transition period is having you set up for success. Because oftentimes that like 90-day gap from when someone's separated or retires to when everything just stops. You no longer have meetings you're going to every morning. You're no longer told what to do or have your 0700 to 1630 or whatever that might look like. That's a pretty big shock. So with In Transition, with some of our services that we have with our kit, or the digital one, really trying to help that transition smooth out a bit more. There tends to be an increase in suicides and can kind of occur right after that period of time. So the separation to 90 days out from that, we see an uptick in suicide rates. So we really try to be mindful of that.
That's definitely something to look out for, especially if anybody has friends or family that are just, transitioning. Be very mindful with those, first 90 days, show your support, check-ins, let them know they're not alone. I mean, it's something that does affect a lot of people. Nate was saying, common bonds, but also different tours make things difficult, for people for signing up. I was just looking back through the comments, see if anybody was adding anything to it, because we do encourage, if you're tuning in with us, we do encourage that you join the conversation with us. Don't just listen to us talk and go around. We want you to take part in it as well. So you have just as much of a voice in these roundtable talks as we do. Yeah, that's it. It's a very difficult thing, but it also brings up the role that family and friends really does play in supporting our veteran family and friends. I'd really like to, explore how loved ones can support veterans' mental health and well-being. And it can be a multitude of different things. I mean, we could sit here and list things like a shopping list of, things that friends and families can do. But I don't want to sound like a broken record or anything like that. A lot of these things are things that we all No, but acting is different than saying. There are a few things that, I will. Let me start. Restart. Sorry. Pause. Reverse. Friends and family are extremely, extremely important. Not just for veterans, but for everyone. For veterans, especially who are just transitioning back from active service to veteran status, and even years after, because there can be triggers that happen if they served in an active combat zone, or things that were very traumatic through a very traumatic experience while they're serving. There can be triggers that will pop up randomly. 4th of July is a very difficult time for a lot of people. There is a uncle on my wife's side. He was a Marine. He served in Vietnam. 2 tours. He cannot do fireworks. And even my wife's, late cousin Kevin, he could not do. He served in Afghanistan. He was in Operation Iraqi Freedom. He could not do 4th of July or concerts or large crowds of people. He just started to fall back into scanning. He would scan crowds, and he would start getting kind of thoughts of things that he experienced, and he would not be able to stay there. He knew enough that he had to separate himself from those situations. That way he didn't fall deeper into a manic state or traumatic experience, reliving it. It's something that all friends and families can look out for. So if you have loved ones that did serve, years later, still be mindful with them. Check in with them, see how they're doing. Keep an eye out for, certain triggers or this and that. Or you could just ask. A lot of people aren't going to be, hurt by you asking. They might be taken back for a second and be quiet about it. Like, no, I'm fine. They will open up eventually. If they trust you, they will open up and share. Well, I can't really do fireworks, or, large crowds really get to me. My anxiety gets up, and, they'll start opening up. It takes time to open up, to feel comfortable with people, especially people that don't understand what you experienced. And that's the hardest part with sharing and opening up. A lot of times, not a lot of times, sometimes, people will not open up, veterans and service members will not open up to a civilian like me, like average Joe, because I didn't experience what they experienced. Only somebody else who served would understand that. And even then, it's difficult for them to open up to them as well. But over time, they'll build that support network and comfort, and they'll feel safe around you, and they will start sharing. But in the meantime, look out for triggers or anything that you see that they're physically reacting to. You see their posture changing. They're either getting more rigid or just more paranoid, like Nate was saying in the chat. They're being more situational awareness or paranoid in areas. Keep an eye out for that. If you do see that, don't hesitate to walk up casually and ask if they're okay, if they need anything, if they need to step away. They're not going to be hurt by it. If anything, they might actually appreciate it more that you're showing that you honestly care about them, and you're willing to take them out of that situation with them. Like, hey, let's go get a beer down at the corner, or let's go for ice cream. Shafis, what were you saying about those lenses for those cameras that you were talking about earlier? Let's go check out that setup. Shafis likes
Crazy you
feedbacks.
mentioned the fireworks. It's crazy you mentioned the fireworks. I mean, we went to Universal Studios. This is years ago now, but surprise fireworks when you're not expecting them.
Mm.
Yeah. She had never seen me act like that before, but just out of the blue, the 10 o'clock fireworks happens. I don't realize it's 10 o'clock. Happens off, and I'm just start freaking out for a second. Take like 30 seconds to kind of okay, we're fine, everything's cool, mellow out. But it still shocks your adrenaline immediately.
I
Fight or
believe
flight
it.
really does kick in. So
Yeah. Yeah, especially when it's just like that. You're not aware that it's going to be going off, and then all of a sudden the loud bangs and everything. It's it'll jar everybody. Of course, I still think Disney's fireworks are better than but sorry, I was trying to make a fun thing out of it. But no, you're absolutely right, and you were lucky to have somebody there to help support you. I mean, there's
Oh, for sure.
a lot of people that don't have that support network near them all the time. Blake, what are some things for an individual who may be affected suddenly that they can do to kind of digress a bit and kind of gain control of the situation?
The first thing, really, honestly, is going to be recognizing kind of what is happening in your body. So a lot of what I do is more of this like operationally focused lens of how I talk about different things that you would hear in like a therapy room. So what you guys might know is like box breathing. We can call like tactical breathing or taking a tactical pause. That seems to be more effective for folks. It takes away and continues to take away stigma and make it to where it's like, okay, I can do this. This fits in my lens of like what I might have done in combat deployment experiences. But you're gonna have box breathing, grounding intervention, so like diaphragmatic breathing, so focusing on breathing into your belly and feeling your belly get larger, and then letting the breath come out. Checking, like doing a body scan is a big one. So noticing where your like arousal and where that sort of stress for you stays at. So for a lot of people, it may be that shoulders like may raise up really quick, or their head might be on a swivel quickly, or their heart rate increases. So it's really about trying to be mindfully aware of their bodily sensations, and then you can directly counteract that. First off of accepting that like from your prior experiences that's going to cause a reaction. That doesn't necessarily mean like there's something wrong with you or that it's a problem, but it's how can we now navigate getting yourself back to what we call as homeostasis. There's a lot of effective things to do that.
That's great. No, you're absolutely right. And I would the body scan. That's such a great place to start for people right there. Just like you said, it could be the shoulder raise, it could be, the head, bob, it could be, anywhere. Scanning your body also, I feel, would like ground yourself into your own self-awareness. Like you're kind of taking yourself out for a minute and, not letting it affect you. You're kind of grounding yourself and focusing on where it is in your body. And like you said, you can counteract that. Oh, we got some really good questions. Why didn't you say anything, Shafis?
You were talking.
Oh, all right.
The passenger back left passenger seat. Totally okay with that. Naps and snacks are included.
Hey, somebody needs to change the tire. So,
I'm there.
No, what were
Big
the
body mechanic.
What were the questions?
So Nate asked, what's your take on direct unaliving suicide rates versus the bad lifestyle choices, substance abuse and reliance? I hear their common refrain to substance abuse.
So substance abuse and suicide rates, is that the question? Sorry.
So what is your take on suicide versus substance abuse?
So are you asking like, do I view substance abuse as being a slow death, sort of, so to speak?
That's a great question, Nate.
Yeah, because I see there could be overlap in it. You could on one hand, you could argue that if you're, having a problematic substance use issue such as alcoholism, or maybe you're into an illicit substance, like you could argue on one hand that you're slowly killing yourself over time, versus getting help or working through that or whatever might be causing that. Whereas suicide rates, I think I would look at those a bit separately, but depending on like what means or what the outcome is. So if Nate has anything more specific, I'd answer that.
I do see, unfortunately, that a lot of our service members, when they come back, they are over medicated very quickly. And that seems to be a reoccurring theme with, here, take these. And I know several that were overprescribed painkillers and everything else, and they actually weaned themselves off because they were so dependent on them, and they wanted alternative options. But I'm not going to point fingers at the VA and say it's all the VA's fault or anything like that, but I'm just going to say it was always the quick trigger to, no, well, okay, you don't want that, take this instead. Okay, well, now you're taking it from one hand and you're putting it in the other hand and you're saying, okay, this is new. Well, it's not. It's the same thing. I mean, you traded one for the other, and now it's becoming a very, scary issue because, it's addiction. It's, it can lead to accidental overdoses. It can lead to so many different factors that I would love to see some sort of intervention in the future with, medical treatment, for veterans. I mean, Shafis, how heavy was your bag, your rucksack, when you were running around?
I was lucky. Honestly, my rucksack was, I think, 45 pounds. It wasn't too intense. But at the same time, I took my rucksack, 2 duffel bags, 4 foot lockers, a toolbox, and a couple other containers that, was a necessity as a mechanic. And so being deployed and things like that, you have to carry your toolbox on the flight line. There's no magical gator that just pops up out of nowhere.
Nate says, that's kind of where I was going. Instead of suicidal ideations, bad habits becoming the socially accepted was of achieving the same ends. The desire to disconnect or check out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you could argue that one is leading to that potential outcome if there is an intervention that goes into play there. With suicidal ideation, it's very overt. If someone says, "I want to die," or "I have a plan to kill myself," or something like that, it's much different than someone, the classic thing, or from everyone in here who's with their military experience, is what we call as morbid ideation. So it's really just a term used in the military settings, but is going to be like, I want to go to sleep and not wake up, having thoughts like that you can normalize a bit more. So I guess I see where you're coming from. I definitely think that folks who maybe are really in a bad place with alcohol or with an illicit substance or an opioid or something of that nature, I think the lifestyle choices or what's happening then can definitely lead to the outcome being death, whether it's intentional or not. I think it really depends on what was happening at that point.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, I'm looking up.
And so something I mentioned too. Oh, sorry.
No, go right ahead.
Narcan is now, Narcan is now supposed to be included in all controlled substance medications when it's picked up through the VA. I'm not sure that the VA, but I know at active duty medical treatment facilities is supposed to be included with all controlled medications when they're prescribed. So to at least have a way to direct intervention to prevent overdose.
Yeah, we actually have a dose of Narcan in our med kit here. I go with a company that's called My Medic. First responders, EMTs, military, and everything put together really sound med kits, but you can use your HSA funds to get those. But outside of that, I have friends in the community and this and that, and I was able to get a dose. New York State is very in the forefront of accidental overdoses, especially in central New York, and I got one of the Narcan doses just to put in the pack in the med kit because in the sense of you never know. You never know when a neighbor, a loved one, this and that, something will happen. I try and be prepared for every scenario, and accidental overdoses is a very real and common thing. So, no, that would be great, if that was, with every single, prescription, you have to have Narcan available because, I mean, just looking up a little bit of stats right here, veterans are 57% at a higher risk of suicide than those who haven't served. So they're at a higher risk. In 2001 study reported that the suicide rate was highest among veterans between the ages of 18 and 34 years old, followed by 35 and 54. The overall rate was 33.9%, which was a 1.3% increase over the prior year. And I haven't found any current stats. It takes a long time to get these stats in, but veterans are also twice as likely to die from accidental overdoses compared to the general population. And that includes veterans, retirees, and their families are not immune to opioid addiction crisis, which is still raging on across not just the country but the world. I mean, that like I said, mentioned before, the overprescription, being over medicated and dependency, and then being in the Army or military or everything, you guys go on leave, you guys grow gills and try to swim through a bar, and mixing cocktails and hors d'oeuvres is not going to work out all too well. But you try and tell a stubborn service member they can't do something, they're like, bullshit, I can't, and they're gonna go for it because they're tough. They can handle it, and people get forgetful. They already took their medication, they forget, they take more, they're drinking, they're combining things, and it turns into a dangerous combination. So being prepared for those situations is a very, very important thing too. Knowing what to do, how to react. If you see something happen, at least having somebody that is calm and collected and knows how to react is going to potentially help save a life. But it is it's scary knowing, seeing some of the stats and everything of how much this affects our military community. I mean, these are staggering, numbers. I mean, just a lot of people know. There's actually another organization that we know and we uplift as well. It's 22. Oh gosh, Shafis, what is it?
You mean Stack Up?
No, 22.
22 a day.
22 a day.
22 veterans succumb to suicide every day.
Yep. The number is.
I really feel like that number is probably wrong.
No, but that is the name of the organization. But there is a lot of stats that go behind that to actually back that. It could be higher at this point. But 22 veterans commit suicide daily in the United States, and the number has been blasted across the outlets of mainstream media as a call to action for the advocates of the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, the group that seems to be the most at risk at the moment. I mean, these are people that are coming back from the it was 10 years of combat over there that are trying to adapt to civilian life, and it is very difficult. Which is another reason why these roundtables, during Memorial Day and Veterans Day are so important. It helps break that stigma. Just discussing the importance of these things helps reduce the stigma around, the mental health issues in the military community, but also just the taboo nature of these discussions. That's why these talks are so important, because it can help somebody that is tuning in, or help enlighten somebody else, and they'll have something important to take away that they might not have been aware of prior. I'm trying to think of anything. I do know that PTSD has affected a lot of veterans. Now with gaming, especially VR, has been utilized more recently over the last 2-3 years to be a sort of therapy for PTSD. I think I described it over the weekend as like tough love. essentially, reliving those kind of situations. How would you describe that, Blake? Uh, treatment.
Can you repeat that real quick?
Oh, how virtual reality, exposure therapy,
Yeah.
exposure therapy.
For PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the big ones right now that folks may know of is going to be prolonged exposure therapy, EMDR, so eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and cognitive processing therapy. So one's going to focus on your thoughts and reprocessing them. One's going to be focused on like your eye scans and then kind of working on coming to different memories and processing through that. And then the other one's going to be focusing on like imaginal exposure interventions as well as then exposure interventions you can do in your environment. So VR is going to be more like the last one, the prolonged exposure, but it's going to be mimicking exposure interventions in general, but with the headset on. So some of the current research is really focusing on using VR and exposure training to help folks with like combat experiences specifically, with trying to sort of mimic situations or scenarios someone might have been in, but in a very controlled environment, whether it's with a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a medical doctor, something like that, to focus in on how can we target and make sure we're scanning like our SUDS levels. So that's kind of our severity response we're noticing when we're feeling more like hyper aware, hyper vigilant, and then we can reduce things versus flooding yourself, which is when you go too deep and then now we actually regress further back from our goals. So VR is a way of really heightening the experience, I guess is the best way to put it, making it as realistic as possible to control for potential psychological responses you might have.
Would that also like help desensitize those kind of triggers?
Yeah. And that's got its own sort of problems too.
yeah, I don't doubt that. Yeah, I remember, I believe you shared something late last year or earlier this year, something from the VA. The VA actually has been conducting studies on utilizing virtual reality as, to treat PTSD. And it is definitely, I couldn't imagine going through it. It's got to be a real shock to the system to be kind of, thrown back into those kind of situations again, I'll say, but I mean, there definitely has to be more benefits to it than the negative side effects to it. Like you were saying, utilizing, the VR headset, it simulates the events, but it also is a controlled environment.
Yeah, and you'll graduate up to it. It's called gradual exposures. So you'll start like baby steps. Kind of, you'll start with, you're putting in your VR, maybe you're mimicking you're on the flight line to deploy or whatever. And then starting to build up. Now you're in that environment. Now you're, knocking down doors or whatever. So you're going to start really slow and then build up over time.
Gotcha.
And then the other real popular one that's gaining a lot of steam is ketamine treatment for PTSD, specifically through the VA. I know there's some recent studies that have came out really pushing for that to be a more prevalent treatment for PTSD.
So just pulled up a little bit of stats, through the a little bit from the VA, and then kind of blended in with a research project. Virtual reality therapy, offers the immersive and personalized treatment experiences for individuals with challenges addressing conditions such as, PTSD, anxiety, and depression. But the success rate has been shown between 66 and 90%. So there is something there where you see these gaming platforms that can start being utilized in therapeutic ways, not only for de-stressing and digressing, in that temporary escape from the day, unplugging, but also plugging in to help overcome some things. I love seeing the growth, and expansion of, gaming not carrying a negative stigma all the time, because for decades it was you're playing video games in the basement, you're not going to amount to anything. It always carried a negative stigma on gaming forever. And now you're starting to see more and more studies come out showing the positive sides of gaming, instead of just cognitive function, motor skills, everything. Like, there's so many different things. And then there's also mental health focused and driven games being produced and put out there on the market today, and some that are actually doing a very, very impressive job with demonstrating what it's like to be an individual with schizophrenia. The Hellblade series, it's you're seeing more and more. And we actually had a nice talk with the team from Ubisoft Halifax over the weekend, and they during our talk, we're supposed to go get coffee, flex. They recognize that there is a more need for consults in their games with mental health professionals and people in the field to really approach these these conditions and things properly, and have, depending on what they're going for, represent, a certain condition or trigger or something like that that will affect not only the character that is progressing, but also the viewer as well. Destiny 2 went through it with an expansion they had that really went heavy into past trauma with their main characters, and they all lived, had to deal with that trauma over again to overcome it, to move forward. And I believe Matt and Dr. Williams actually put something together. I don't know if you helped on that or not, Blake. You might have. I think you might have helped on that. But we sent some resources to Bungie to add to their mental health resources in their help tab on Bungie.net to kind of help bring more awareness and let people know what's being touched on. Shafus, I saw that you tagged something in the chat. What did you want to talk on?
Blueberry075 wanted to ask you a question. It says, with your job with GMH, what is it you do for the vets as a job that the military doesn't? In Holland, they have a complete program that's designed for the vets specifically. So I think he wants, he's basically asking, what is it that GMH does that the military doesn't do for its vets on the way out?
Very good. Next step resources. See, one of the things that is very difficult for a lot of veterans when they're coming out of service, the VA has been doing a better job at providing resources and medical treatment and things like that for individuals. What we are aiming to do with Guardians Health through our veteran-focused mental health kits and our resources is to provide more non-military resources to these individuals, and let them know that there are more resources available to them, and tools that they can utilize that is not provided by the VA. The VA is not going to show you how to pay your bills or write a check or how to cook for yourself again or how to maintain. They're there for very cut, dry things. A, B, C. If it's not in between A, B, and C, it doesn't fall into the realm. And if you do get to somebody, if you do have a great person that you're working with at the VA, it might take months to see a return on that. I know a lot of people that will go 6 to 9 months without any sort of treatment or next step resolution because it takes so long, that the VA moves so slowly that it goes unheard, and then they just forget about it and they're like, I'm not going to get any help for this. So our goal is to provide accessibility to next step resources and programs so they know that there are other things out there for them. The VA does not, share about, if you're a gamer, if you play, groups that are military and veteran focused that you can reach out to and, build community with and socialization. There's other things you could do with breathing, grounding techniques, putting those resources in their hands, suggesting some amazing apps that can be downloaded that are free, that people can utilize that they might not have been aware of before, and then also providing and uplifting other organizations and groups that provide truly amazing resources for military and veteran individuals that is not supported by the VA. It's not a VA program, so it's, listed in the VA, so it's not going to be, shared to the broader masses. That's where GMH steps in and makes that accessibility and bridge that gap between resources and to help individuals, get to the resources and, support that they need and that they're looking for whatever situation they might be going through. Might be a good time. What are we at? We're at 51 minutes. We're 16 minutes over. So it's a good point to kind of lead off on because we're going to actually show a little bit of the programs that we have. These are our veteran mental health kits right here. So inside is 27 different items that can be utilized by individuals. And it's not just limited to veterans, but also active service members as well can utilize the resources that are inside these mental health kits. And inside you'll find things like we have a very basic, there's one of the things right there, paracord bracelet. One of the reasons why we have a paracord bracelet in these kits is that a lot of service members are familiar with paracord. We went through about a little over 11 months of summits and studies and curating to put this one kit together. We wanted to do it right. We just didn't want to throw something out there and just have it be that's it. This is for veterans and that's it. Nope. We took the time to hold not one but 2 summits with veterans and active service members in the gaming space to hear them out directly what they would like to see inside a veteran focused kit that would assist them. What would they find useful inside and what would they like to see? And one of the things that they wanted to see was less verbiage. Things that were too lengthy would be tossed to the side. Anything too wordy. So we went through and we actually shrunk down all of the text and everything, consolidated it. That way it was more direct and easier to understand and get through. Something that was a couple lines instead of a full-on paragraph. The paracord is one of those things that people who served in the military can associate with, and they actually find some comfort in because they use paracord a lot. Another thing that you'll find in there, goal setting, hunting the good stuff, things that can kind of bring somebody back to their time in the military that they'll relate, because the U.S. Army goal setting and hunting the good stuff was one of the things that they actually tried to incorporate into training, for support. And then on top of that, you'll find, how gaming does good for veterans, socialization resources and vetted online groups and communities. We actually went through weeks of research looking into not 1 or 2, but I believe it was over 30 different communities and groups online that were veteran focused that were more toxic than anything. So we actually worked with these groups. We actually lurked in there, joined them, were a part of them for a while, and to see how they operated, just so when we endorsed it and approached them to endorse them and put them as a part of this as an option for somebody, that we knew exactly how it was going to, the end game would be for them. It would be a positive experience versus a negative. We didn't want to take somebody out of a toxic environment and throw them in an even more toxic environment. I'm talking like Halo 2, open chat toxicity, or, the first Black Ops when it first came out. Proximity chat was off the chain. That's not going to do good for anybody. Direct knows what I'm talking about. He's reacting to this, and he's like, oh my God, I know exactly what you're talking about. Resilience cards as well, resources on resilience, peer support, supporting one another, as well as veteran gamer workout programs. And we understand that there could be limitations for individuals who might not be able to stand, might have lost a limb or something like that, or might have another condition that keeps them from performing some of these workouts. So we worked with a physical therapist as well as a physical education instructor to put together a variety of workout programs to get people's blood moving, because mental health and physical health go hand in hand. It's 50-50. It can't just be all mental health, because if you're physically not doing well, you're mentally not going to be doing well, and it accompanies, and it goes back and forth. We also incorporate more physical reminders in each kit as well. We also uplift a insert for some of our peer organizations as well. Our friends over at Stack Up do tremendous work for our military brothers and sisters and everyone in between every day. They do a great program. They have an Overwatch program that's helped thousands of people. They do supply drops to help encourage utilizing gaming as a positive versus a negative. We also have resources on trauma to make people more aware of things that they could look out for from in the kit. Just kind of like a more being more educational based and awareness, so you could be more self-aware but also aware of those around you as well, that you might be able to step in and help support somebody. We also have guided meditations in there as well. Blake has recorded several guided meditations for veterans, same as Dr. Williams, that are focused on speaking directly to service members. We also have a mindfulness, military-focused mindfulness activity book that one of our art therapists helped put together as well too, utilizing grounding through coloring, and all of the pages are focused around military and different branches as well. We also have a who we are and how to create a self-care toolkit, because it's very important that each one of us have a self-care toolkit that we can utilize in moments that we are experiencing emotional trauma or anxiety or anything like that. And not just having, it's called a toolkit for a reason, because it's not just a tool, it's a toolkit. You have to have several different things, and we try and provide several different items and resources in each kit. So from one veteran focused mental health kit, you could create your own self-care toolkit from the items found inside that work for you. That's why they're so broad. They have so many different resources and tools and sensory items inside that everyone can put together a toolkit from the resources that they can find inside. There's also a distress scale that Dr. Williams worked on. It is a SUD scale, like Blake mentioned earlier. So it's done kind of like you see it at the hospitals. It's like a smiley face to a frowny face. And several of our resources, you'll see a toolbar on the side, on the top of the heading, 1 through 10, and a meter reading on that, on how that this specific exercise could be utilized in that specific moment of distress. So you know which ones are best used for at those moments. We also have more in transition inserts, like we discussed earlier, a safety plan that can be self-filled out. That way you can fill it out. It's a crisis safety plan that you can fill out, put on your fridge. In moments of distress, you can review it, see next step contacts. Even though even if you can't get the words out, a loved one could know where that card is and know who to contact in moments of distress. We also have great resources in there from our friends at Wounded Warrior, and several other items. But the important thing on this one, inside this mental health kit, not everybody learns by reading. Some people are more visual learners. So this was the first mental health kit under our umbrella that we actually had visual aid videos accompany each resource. So on each resource, you'll see a QR code. It doesn't just go to a donation tab or anything like that. It doesn't go to, Shafis's, preferred cameras, and lenses, or, or I'm going to say something more sarcastic, but those each.
Go, Joe.
It's Joe's OnlyFans. Let's be real.
It's feet pics all day. Shafis, yes, subscribe.
I mean, is the camera still on?
But no, the QR code actually leads to a library of visual aid videos. So if you are more of a visual learner, not everybody will sit there and read something. If you scan that barcode, a lot of people like watching YouTube videos, TikToks, this and that. It will bring you to a video library of every single resource, and somebody on our team or working with us will read that resource to you. So you can actually utilize it as another way to digest resources and information in a more comfortable atmosphere that you are more accustomed to learning by. If you're, a lot of people say, I learn by doing, I learn by watching, not by reading or this and that. This is for you. And each video is not very long. They're about 15 seconds to a minute long, depending on the resource that's being touched on. Blake does a fantastic job. So does Shafis. They are an amazing tool. And that's what we do. And right now we're working with VAs down in the state of Maryland with, or VFWs down in the state of Maryland with providing them accessibility to veteran-focused mental health kits for their new members. So we were just down there. I was just down there about 2 months ago. And we actually helped 5 of their new members with providing them resources, and one of them was having suicidal ideations. And the commander there handed them kind of a welcome pack, welcome to our post. We also have this and that, and if you would like it, this is a veterans focused mental health kit from our friends at Guardians Mental Health. It's helped 5 of their new members there, so much so that it impressed the rest of the state. And we had a great meeting there that we're going to be providing veteran-focused mental health kits to the VFWs across the state of Maryland, and it's being discussed to go even wider and more broader than that. And we were also approached by the Canadian Armed Forces while we were up in Halifax over the weekend. They were going to be having a meeting with them to convert our U.S.-based veterans-focused mental health kit to also be something that can be utilized by the Canadian Armed Forces as well, to do the same thing for them as well, because they explained to us over the weekend that resources outside the VA are extremely scarce, and something like this would be utilized very broadly and by a lot of people, and is much needed. So we're going to be starting those conversations in the next week and couple days, hopefully, and get working on that. That way we can make it more broad and support more of our military and veteran, family and friends and community members. We also expanded into this year with, I'm going to throw it on the main thing. We actually have a landing page specifically on our website for veteran resources that you can actually visit our website and not only gain access to the veteran focused mental health kits and the visual aid and the digital focused mental health kits. The digital kits can be utilized 24/7. You can bring wherever you are and review these amazing resources that are inside. And the great thing is it's with you all the time. The only thing it's lacking is the actual sensory items. So there's the bracelet and the crayons and stuff, but you can still download all these things and you can actually print them off at home and create your own kit at home. But if you go through, you'll find that we actually have a drop down for additional resources that touch on everything from veterans, mental health resources, crisis, outreach, Organizations, yes, we do uplift other organizations. Homeless assistance, social and gaming groups, veteran suicide prevention, veteran support groups, transition resources, substance abuse, education, specialty programs, PTSD, a VFW, DAV, and Legion Finder. Extremely awesome to see that. LGBTQ veteran resources, women resources, veteran minorities, as well as veteran health programs. And we also uplift at the bottom our partners and supporters that we work with to bring these resources to everyone. So all you would have to do is just visit it, and you can just hit the drop down, and you will find amazing next step resources available right there. And we are trying to review and add more, because the more, the merrier. And that's that. I've been talking for a long time, so I apologize. I want to wrap this up because, like I said, I want to be mindful. We're actually 1 hour and 5 minutes over, even though we're 30 minutes over, because I screwed up and don't know how to stream. So I want to just open it up real quick. Let everybody, if anybody's got anything that they'd like to leave on, please, the floor is yours.
I'll add something real quick. I saw a question that was in there.
Oh, sure.
Kind of like, how can you help if you're the military, want to support if you have a disability or something of that nature? So one thing, I guess it would depend on what you're wanting. There's things like, if you're like, oh, I'm 20 and I really want to join, but I have this disability, is this going to prevent me from enlisting? The answer is that depends. And the other answer is anything can be waived for the most part. So if that's something, that's like maybe an offline conversation to talk about more. Otherwise, like, how can you support? So the amount of questions that I get asked about how can we talk about mental health and suicide prevention that doesn't seem like we're a robot and fits like our yearly annual suicide prevention training that you would have to do. Like, that's not really all that effective. But there's this training, it's called QPR, and it stands for Question, Persuade, Refer. It's just a really basic training, normally through most state Department of Health agencies for free, if enough people attend, that goes over really good like communication perspectives on like how to talk about suicide or mental health stigma or things like that from a military perspective, but then also just on like a human level and the human connection. Like, really, the single biggest predictor for preventing something like this from happening is fostering like relationships and building connectedness and hope. A lot of people that are vets, those go out the window real fast, and then we have the problems that we talk about today. So I think those types of conversations, but then also just knowing, like, sometimes just asking for help or talking through things with somebody that you feel like you could discuss with, or just reaching out. Like, I know it's scary and can be really hard to do, especially for some of the, old crusties that may be in the chat. And you know who I'm talking about if you're one of them.
Take slight offense.
With all the love on that, but just asking really can make the difference, or reaching out and knowing that we're here to support, whether it's one of the folks here or it's other people that you trust or feel like you could reach out to. Like, it's a lot, and it can be intense and can be scary, but I'd rather your life matter and that you get to live the next day versus being worried about talking to somebody and then your days are numbered. Like, anything I can do in my role to prevent that, or to be another guidance or resource, like, that really is important to me. And other things too, like, if you like talking about things operationally speaking, like, I probably will eventually end up adding this presentation I give quite often to, like, maybe I'll do a YouTube video or something, but it's on like demystifying mental toughness and really focusing on how to optimize your like mental and physical performance. It's about an hour-long presentation I normally will give. And it may be something that we can also look at adding and talking about more. It's really going to connect the physical and mental components together versus just people being worried about, oh, it's mental health, something's wrong with me. It's like, no, there's many, many physical things and experiences in the military that could be the cause for what you're currently experiencing. And shifting our perspective to looking at it more biologically can have a huge difference on people's willingness to talk about their concerns. So just all of these things I try to be mindful of.
It's great. It's great, Blake.
I liked what you said about just building relationships. I work with a bunch of blue collar dudes, like 100 blue collar guys I see every single day. No one asks how anyone is at any given point ever. So when you catch someone that's just, acting a little bit different, it's not weird to pull someone alongside, whether that be, back room, hey, come over real quick, let me talk to you, ask someone how they're doing, making sure they're all right. It can mean a hell of a difference. Another thing that helped me personally is, when's the last time your cell phone rang? Cell phones don't ring very often anymore. So when your cell phone rings, it's worth an answer. Actually, it's crazy. I got chills when you started talking about the 90 days. I experienced it myself. So a phone call saved my life back in the day. So calling the right people and answering the phone, you can really save someone's life just by picking it up. That's all it is. Whether that be, hey man, are you okay? Even if you're busy, it's 15 seconds to see what it's about. That's all it takes. Just pick it up.
That's great advice. And you're right. Yeah. It could mean it could mean the world to somebody, and it could change, the trajectory that they're on to a whole new path. Just be a complete, end things on a positive note. I mean the world to somebody. Shafis, would you like to leave off with anything?
Yeah. To caveat all of that, I mean, and don't ever feel like, as a person that reaches out to a vet or anyone for the matter, hey, are you okay? And someone dumps on you. I mean, as a friend, as a person, as a vet, I'll tell you right now, I've been through the training, been through hours of training. We all have, but every once in a while, there's just a statement or a conversation that comes off, and you're not there. You're just not there. I don't know. What am I supposed to do? That being said, the presence of power, or the power of presence, is just ungodly sometimes. You don't need to say anything. I don't have to be a trained professional. You need to be aware of what you say, but sometimes just sitting in a VC and hearing Joe talk about how he's going to purchase the next feet pick cam is stressing him out. That might just be all that Joe needs to calm down and ground himself. All jokes aside, but that power, that presence of being there. You don't have to be a trained professional. You don't have to be, I'll say it again and again. You just don't. It's just be mindful and take that step, like Direct said, and pick up the phone. Just do it. It's not going to hurt you.
That's great.
It's crazy. It's crazy because you'll catch me, if anyone that's in the Discord for Guardians Mental Health, you'll just see me just hang out in there sometimes, just because you never know, it does help. Feel free to pop in if you're in there, by the way.
Ping me.
Quite a bit, so.
I'm always down to hang out. It's just nobody talks to me. I don't get tags.
You don't talk very much, so it's hard.
Yeah, we haven't getting you to get a word in yet.
Yeah, the problem is getting me to stop. Once you get me started talking, getting me to stop. That's the issue. At a live event, forget it. You're not getting away from our booth for 5 minutes.
I was there for 3 hours.
This is true.
You didn't mention one of my favorite parts from those packs either.
No?
The personal touch on who put your pack together.
Exactly. Another thing about every one of our mental health kits, they're not put together by a mass distributor. We do not utilize that. Our kits are put together by hand by somebody working at, a team member at GMH or working with us. They are put by hand. Somebody took the time to put each of these kits and packs together. Every single piece that is in there is put together by hand, and you will find a card signed by the person who assembled your mental health kit. And that goes miles. And just to give you a little bit of data, we have provided over 25,000 mental health kits to date. And I believe We just added another 200 to it from what we had at Halifax or at Halcon. So we cannot do this without your support. Everything that comes in, goes right back out to try and make more positive impacts for people. And, through our programs, whether they be our mental health kit program or a new tool or resource that we developed in order to have something that was not there or available before. And all of our resources are available for free. And it's because you make it happen. If you would like, we have our end of the year charity stream gala going on at the end of the year, and those proceeds from every charity stream go directly into the mental health kit program, 100%. So from every single charity stream that goes on online, it supports our mental health kit program solely. So we will actually purchase materials and printed resources. Everything is put together by you. We might be throwing them in the bag and mailing them out, but you're the reason why it happens. So thank you very much for all of your support. We're going to end it now because I want people to enjoy the rest of their evening and get dinner and rest up and all that fun stuff. So who do we know that is live right now that we can go share the love to and sign off on?
We have Kraus is on. Frog is on.
Oh, there's a lot of people. Let's go raid Kraus. Krausader. I'm going to...
Kraus house.
Yep. /raid. This is where I mess up the rest. Oh, I did it right the first time. Look at that. I can do something right. I'm just an average Joe, everybody. But thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in and joining our conversation. And thank you very much, Shafus, Direct, and Blake. Thank you three so much for being a part of this conversation, taking times out of your busy schedules and your days and your Veterans Day. And I want to thank each of you and wish you all, a Veterans Day. I can't thank you all enough for what you have done for all of us, civilians and average Joes, and Blake, what you're currently doing for all of us and all of our active service members that you're helping support and get through, and you're doing amazing work and you are excelling at everything. I am so proud for you and of you. You are an incredible individual. Can't thank you enough. Your challenge coins are pretty badass, so no one can rival that. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Let's raid over to Kraus and have a great day. Thank you. And that is it.